or improved. All right, you need to be careful when you do this one. Tell me what I need to do. I know the bottom is 300. Tell me what to write on the top.
133. It's 120 plus 133.
No.
120 plus 42 plus 31.
If you put 120, 120 represents both of those numbers. And if you put 138, it represents all three of those numbers, which means you just double dipped on a 65.
That's what I say.
So you need to be careful because 120 is really 65 and 55. So when you wrote 120, you were writing 65 plus 55. When you write 120. When you write 138, you're really writing 65 plus 42 plus 31. So you technically wrote the 65 twice. So you're doing a double dip. So just be careful. Either when you're doing these, say, okay, I don't want to look at these numbers. I just need to do a 55, a 65, a 42, and a 31. Or I can do the totals, but I can't do that 65 twice. I got to take out one of those. I don't care how you do it, but you just got to make sure that you don't do a double dip. So you can either do a 55 plus a 65 plus a 42 plus a 31. Or you can do a 120 plus a 138 and then minus a 65 overlap. So your answer should be 193 over 300. Does everybody see why it's that way? All right, this one's going to be an and. Given the drug and improved. And because it's an and, we're going to do where they overlap. So what number should be on the top? 65 over 300. Good? All right. Now, I put this one out here only because if you're getting into probability, this one was a cool problem. It talks about everybody that survived the Titanic, how many men, women, and children in total, and how many died, and this is survival. So when they said all women and children first,
Yes.
this is how many survived. So more men survived than women and children. So, yeah. So this was actually a cool problem and said, what's the probability that a female and she survived? What's the probability? So this is nothing more than the shading, the and, the or, the shading. It was kind of a cool problem if you're into probability. I thought it was kind of neat. You know, if you say, what's the probability that you were a male and you were on the ship and you survived or you died or whatever. It's not on the test, but it was a cool problem. Now, Last thing we're gonna look at real quickly, regression, we haven't done it in a while, okay? Chapter 7 stuff. When you get your, because you're not gonna be able to use your calculator, you're gonna have to use the calculator in the testing room. So remember, the very first thing that you have to do is you've gotta do that fixed calc.
Oh.
Yeah, remember? So you're gonna go to program, and that fixed calc will be there. It'll either say fixed calc or fixed calc 1. Mine doesn't say it, but yours is gonna say fixed calc. You'll hit the program button and you'll go to fixed calc and just hit enter. Yay? Program is right under stat.
Oh, there it
Yep, so you've gotta do that like right when you start the test. Then, make sure you do your Germex steps. Do we remember what our Germex steps are? So what do we need to do to Germex?
is. Y equals
We've gotta go to our y equals,
multiply.
and because remember y'all, you're using a calculator and you don't know if it's been used or not.
Right.
So you've gotta go to your y equals, that plot needs to be black. So you're gonna go up to the top and make sure it's black, because it may look like that. It may not be black. So you've got to go on top of it, click it, make it black, and come down. And you've got to clear everything else out. So let me pull this down for just a second. So we've got to go to y equals, and we've got to make sure this is black, and we've got to make sure these are clear. So that's like steps 1 and 2. And then the first thing we've got to do is we've got to go to program, and we've got to choose the, what did I just say?
Fixed calc.
Fixed calc, thank you, I had a blonde moment, fixed calc. Okay, and then we're going to do our Germex. So we go to y equals, now what do we do after we do that? Okay, so we're going to do, I do second quit just to get me back to my main page. QUIT, I do second quit to get me back to my main page. So second quit gets me back to my main page. Then I go to clear table. So second catalog, and then I go down to clear table. Second catalog, and then I go down to clear table. And I hit enter twice. So step number 4. I did second 0, which is my catalog, and I went to clear table. And finally, I'm going to go to stat edit and clear out my list. So that's step number 5, is my stat edit. Now, for most of the problems, y'all, I told you what the L1 and L2 was. So like here, I told you this is L1 and this is L2. Or either I put it in a table like this, and whatever the X is, that's your L1, and whatever the Y is, that's your L2. So you're going to plug in your L1s, you're going to plug in your L2s. And after you, and I'm just going to make, I'm not going to type in, I'm just going to make stuff up so that we can go through the process. Okay, so I type in my data. So after you type in your data, what do? Look at me. Zoom 9. Look at me. That's going to be your scatter plot. What do you do after you look at me? Work it out. How do you work it out? Stat calc 4, linear regression. That is going to give you your line of best fit. So my line of best fit would be y equals negative 11.8x plus 95.17. Now, identify and interpret the correlation coefficient. My correlation coefficient is negative 0.62. So is it positive or negative? Is it weak, strong, or moderate? Moderate, because it's 62 cents.
Moderately strong.
What is my percentage?
Moderately weak.
What is my percentage? My percent. Your R squared.
Oh, 38.6.
38.6%, which means my equation works 38% of the time. Now, how do I take this equation and copy it? Where do I go to copy it? Your y equals,
Y equals.
and how do I copy it? How do I copy and paste? Bars,
Bars.
5, which is statistics,
Right. EQ.
over to EQ,
Grid.
and enter.
Enter.
Now that it's copied there, where do I go to predict? Second graph or second table. I type in the number, like this is 1.2 billion, and it gives me the answer. 18.5 billion, it gives me the answer. Some of us may need to go in and look at those regression problems one more again.
They're gonna be on a review too, right?
Yes, I would strongly suggest going out there to that homework and doing that 7 and 6 review. Now, I already had the 5 and 8 homework out, and y'all, even though we're doing 3 sections in 5 and 3 sections in 8, there wasn't much homework, so I put all of 5 homework in one thing, all of 8 homework in one thing, and I already have the final exam review out there. But for this last test, strongly recommend going out there and doing those questions.
All 75.
Get ready for that test. Let me show you. I know I'm a couple seconds over. Hold on.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
Maybe this is God's way of saying, oh.
God's way of saying, oh.
All right, your test is 25 questions. The majority of your test is going to be probability. Okay? 305 babies are girls, 137. Is it shady? Statistically significant, shady. So if you have 305 babies and 137 are girls, does that sound shady? No, because half of them should be girls. This is what we did, the rate and the actual. Remember? This is the bad weather, and remember y'all, if you lose money, so it's going to be 33,000 times 0.7, probability times value plus probability times value. But if you lose money, what is that 7,000 going to be? Negative, minus. Oh, look y'all, we have an and problem. We do that shading. This is going to be, I select 2 envelopes. So what makes me happy is a green. So how many greens are there?
2.
2 out of
4. No, 6.
2, 4, 5, 6. 2 out of 6. I put it back in, and how many greens are there?
6. I mean.
2 out of 6. So I would do 2 out of 6 times 2 out of 6.
Yeah.
This is what we're just doing. This is your X, which is your L1. This is your Y, which is your L2. This, you're picking, okay, if you have an R of negative 0.049, it's going downhill, and it's going to be kind of no correlation.
Right.
So which one's going to be the no correlation? The 3. Y'all with me? Okay, I don't want to finish that one. This is that other one that's the vehicles per accidents that we did last time. If it snows 0.359, what's the probability that it will not snow? The rest of it. So if it snows 35.9% of the time, it's going to not snow the rest of the time. This is the deck of cards that we just did. If you flip a coin 3 times, what's the probability of getting heads? And I'm freaking giving you the 36 things. I'm trying to be nice. Now, y'all, some of these look exactly the same. Also pay attention to the titles up here. Because the things, they both have to match. I'm giving you. Stinking count them. Pedestrian, driver. Y'all with me?
Yeah.
Here's your X, here's your Y, so that's your L1 and L2. You don't even have to pay attention. This one's, the R squared, the percentage. What's the probability that, what makes me happy as a woman? How many women are there? 86. How many total are there? Add them together.
Yeah.
What makes me happy over total? Figure out which one's best fit. How many are blue? Probability less than 5, and rolling a die. Find the outlier. The outlier is the one that's out by itself. I'm trying to give you the one. Now, notice these are all negative. You've got to tell me what's the cause. And then finally, I don't want to major in chemistry. So figure out the chemistry, and the non-chemistry is going to be everything else. Are we good?
Yeah.
Test is due by Thursday of next week. Homework's due by Sunday. Sorry that I went over. Get out there and get to work. It's almost done, y'all. Thank you, Jamie.